I can start the recording. That's not a
I
problem.
already started it. It's okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so yeah, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. But before we do so, just some quick announcements as people trickle in and kind of get settled. Uh, First and foremost, just shout out to our collaboration earlier this afternoon. We collaborated with the Student Government Association. They held their town hall. They hold these town halls intermittently throughout the semester, and this town hall was focused on ethics and campaigning. So it was really cool for the Philosophy Club student officers to collaborate with SGA and have this town hall conversation. We looked at different political campaign ads over the years, and we debated on the one hand whether or not smear campaigns are something that are, on the one hand, immoral but necessary evils, or if on the other hand, they need to be somehow held to higher standards. By that I mean political candidates. So if you're interested in checking out that conversation, it was recorded, and the SGA will be posting it on their Teams page, and I think we'll be sharing it on YouTube as well. Yeah, we had a nice 2-hour conversation that ended 15 minutes ago, so we're all exhausted. I'm joking. But this is going to be a great meeting too. So today's meeting is special because it's also collaborative. If you saw the email, you understand that. Again, we're collaborating with the Student Green team, and green means, again, environmentalism, sustainability. So today's topic is ethics and sustainability, or environmental ethics, things along these lines. We're going to begin, as we often do with these kinds of collaborations, by allowing a student representative of the green team in this case say a few words, not just about the topic at hand, but just what the green team is. And then from there, we'll do what we like to do. We'll have a conversation, invite everybody in, and things along those lines. But prior to that, a couple other announcements. So we've got a few film installments, PHILM, Philosophy and Film. Thank you very much. Got to be pretty clever to come up with that one. And
I'm sure.
Also,
Yeah, it took a lot
got
of time.
installments in back-to-back. I'm pleased to say. Somebody mute Fernando unless he's praising me. So on the 28th of October, that's Wednesday, we are going to be screening a movie called, what's it called? Hereditary?
Yes.
Hereditary.
So Hereditary will be an interesting film. It will resonate with the topic of the previous club meeting, which is happening the Tuesday prior, the day before, in other words, and the topic is determinism. So determinism, and then we're going to watch Hereditary. The way we're going to do this, we talked about it, explored a few different options, but it looks like what we're going to do is meet right here on Teams on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. We're going to, we'll say a couple things to introduce the film and what have you, and then we're going to screen the film on Teams, if I'm not mistaken. So whoever's hosting it will share screen and we'll watch the whole film like that. And feel free to pepper in comments like Mystery Science Theater 3000. No, I'm joking. But yeah, afterwards, after the film has concluded, we will have a conversation. And again, it'll be led much like these meetings by the Philosophy Club student officers. And again, it'll be further exploring the topic of determinism as it's presented in the film. Now that's October 28th. We've done the film series for about 6 semesters now. We've never done like a horror-esque film, so it's close to Halloween, should be great. Now, the week after that, the Wednesday after, I believe that's the 4th, we are collaborating with a series. So the Philosophy and Film series is collaborating with the International Film series. So they are international films, which means, again, not in the English language. We've submitted a couple of suggestions, and we're waiting to hear back from them. It'll either be I write I am in Arab.
No, it's
No,
Right.
write down.
the
Right
title
now.
is on comma, I'm in Arab. It's making a statement, not questioning.
I think the questioning came from my voice. It's, yeah, so it's either going to be that one or I guess the backup plan will be The Seventh Seal, which is a classic existentialist film. But yeah, I would like to see the initial suggestion. And I'm thinking that's going to be what they select. My dog just knocked over my. So I wanted to make sure you all are aware of that. Again, it's going to be very casual. We're going to watch the film and then just have a conversation about it and see how it strikes us. So again, that's going to be October 28th and then November 4th. And then look for advertisements about those. We'll be posting on Instagram, social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. And last but not least, start advertising as soon as possible. Again, the conference, the Dallas College Philosophy Undergraduate Student Conference, will be taking place the Tuesday prior to Thanksgiving. It's going to be more or less an all-day affair, and we'll be sending out the call for submissions later on this week, probably Thursday. And again, we're looking for not just academic essays, but all forms of presentations, as creative as you'd like. We've had people in the past present on philosophical themes, but their mode of presentation was like, it could be something poetic. We've had people perform songs. We've had people perform spoken word poetry. We've had people act out a scene and then analyze it. We've had students present animations that they just screened and then discussed, as well as your traditional PowerPoint presentations and academic essays. So we're looking for all kinds of presentations. In the call for submissions, the CFS will make that clear. All right, so I guess that's all for now. I'll turn it over to the students. Thanks, folks. I've been Jeff Manson. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the
voice of
advertisements
philosophy.
and the introduction, Professor Manzi. First and foremost, thank you guys so much for joining us. I know we are 6 minutes over time, but I'll just take this time to thank everyone for joining and being here and helping us reach the level where we are now. And a couple conducts that we try to observe during the meetings is if you need to propose a rebuttal, or if you have an idea that you want to talk about, the discussion is very open. Just the only requirement is please use the raise hand feature, or you can leave an exclamation mark in the chat, because we do check both the chat and the hands raised. So yeah, just make sure you don't have a lot of background noise. If you do, just mute your mic, and when it's your turn to speak, then the floor is all yours. And yeah, so let's begin. Orlando?
I think preferably we should use
Yeah,
the chat,
about to
because
say
we can
that.
keep track of who's in order to go next. So yeah, please just use the chat for the whenever you want to say something. I'll hand it over to
But
Freddie.
more specifically, the exclamation mark, because that way we know exactly who wants to participate as like introducing something new to the conversation. That way we address you in order instead of like skipping somebody without intention. But yeah. So I'm not
Without
sure if I
further
should
ado,
just start or.
go ahead, sir.
All right. So sorry, I cannot have my camera on because, well, internet is being funny, and yes. So right now I'm just, if you can only see me, because the thing is like
Oh,
I have.
how will we know? How will
Oh,
we know
hi!
what you
I
look
hear
like?
somebody
We
there.
have strangers.
I have a
I think
stranger. That's so weird.
is the room open
Yeah, I
to is the room
cannot
open to
recognize.
everyone?
Cannot.
I
I'm
can
a busy
his
person.
voice.
I am a busy person. You cannot roast me.
Okay,
What?
guys, we need to focus. We
Sorry,
need to
sorry.
focus, because of course people
Yes.
cannot stay for the whole time, and Jennifer has CrossFit, of course. So let's get right into it. And today's
Okay.
topic is the ethics of environment and how the two relate. On further, I'll let Ferdinando talk on it because he had a presentation prepared, but due to technical difficulties, we cannot see it, so we are dependent on him explaining it to us. So the floor is yours, Ferdinando. I'm going to mute myself now.
And Fernando he is part of the green team. He is a member of it.
Yes, I'm serving here as a representative of them as a Green Team ambassador. Thank you. All right. So if there is something weird with my mic, please let me know, because as it stands right now, I am holding like a charger in a very weird way, so I'm not pretty sure my voice come out weird. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. But yes, as of right now, we'll be representing the Student Green Team. My focus really for this presentation is not necessarily just to promote or to talk just about the program on sustainability that Richmond campus has, but also to kind of like point out some particularities of ethics more regarding to the sustainability area of it. So before I continue with my presentation, I do want to pose a question. Whenever you think of sustainability, what does it that it comes in your mind?
Mm, so, can anyone have the floor?
Anyone? Yes.
Okay, I'll take it right now. Sustainability. Well, I feel like I'll just go with the basic definition or like the basic idea of it, which is like sustaining as in having enough for you to like, keep on living, keep on surviving. That's what I like to think about sustainability. But if we were to talk about it on a global scale, we probably just like you just scale that up to like, enough for the world. And especially in a way where it won't really impact that much of the environment to later on cause future issues that will deplete any resources or just like in short mess up any ecosystems. Um, that's what I would
Okay.
probably
So
go with.
so I heard ecosystem, correct? All right. Any other person who wants
Yeah,
to ask this
Israel wants
question?
to talk.
Okay.
Israel, you can
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I
Okay,
cannot see the
thank you.
chat, so thank you so much for that.
Oh no, I'm on my phone, so it's a challenge. But please bear with me. Okay, so when we say sustainability, or when I hear about sustainability, the first thing that comes to mind is the ability to sustain. Um, Regardless of if it's financial, regardless of if it's in business, whether it's just the general ability to sustain. And by sustain, we mean that, or I mean that, just endure whatever happens, you'd still come out on the top, regardless of the struggles or the problems, the complications or challenges. That's what sustainability means to me.
Okay, that's good. So I hear something about economic, correct? All right. So
Thank
any other person? I cannot see the chat, so I would depend on you guys to be my eyes. I'm
Nope,
so
no
sorry.
one yet.
There's no other chat. There's no other one in the chat.
All right. So well, that is partly okay, but it is indeed all of you mentioned it is correct. Um, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is actually 17 goals when it comes to sustainability, and you can narrow it down in three kind of like general spectrums, where it's kind of like the one that most people think, which is environmental, the one that is mentioned, which is economic, but there's also the one that is society. So everything that it relates to something that you do right now and how it can project into the future. So for example, when it comes to society, like all these minorities that are asking for something better for them, it's not really just for them, it's also for their descendants. Okay, so how does this relate to ethics? So the way I see ethics, ethics is a set of moral values and standards that guide our conduct. So it is a reflection on the nature and definition of what it is good. As is currently pursued, philosophical and religious ethics examine the origins, priorities, emphasis, and practical implications of various goods. The good that orient and define ethical systems vary widely among different cultures, religions, and individuals. People value different qualities and things, most obviously, but they also value their goods in different ways and in different relations to each other, for different reasons and to different ends. These differences are, are very relevant to sustainability and are the taking which cannot be understood simply as a practical or technical one. Efforts to create more sustainable practices, organizations, and societies are rooted in an overarching set of values that can be identified and analyzed. Sustainability, in other words, cannot be understood or achieved without careful attention in its ethical dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to use right now as an example this country, United States, because I think that there is something very easy for me to explain when it comes to this definition. Because it is indeed that we consider the history of this culture, the history and this culture so unique that our leaders often use the term American exceptionalism to describe our economics and social niches. In many ways, in the term is accurate, the circumstances of this birth is exceptional. But the first settlers came here to this continent and it was full of resources. And these settlers themselves were Darwinian selection. They were the most entrepreneurial and hardiest of the old world population. Even by the first years of our founding, the standard of living of the average American was higher than it is in any other society. It is no surprise that they emphasize in this country individualism at the right of the private property more than any culture in history. and these ethics emerge from that culture. Sustainability could mean stagnation or stasis, but most often it is used to imply balance and accept the need of innovation and dynamism. The word is used to discuss environmental goals, but it's the least, like I have been hearing, as Isra said, also like to describe the financial sector and the societal sector. Indeed, the phrase systemic risk used to describe the events leading up to the financial collapse and has often been applied to the events that may lead to environmental collapse. Developments in our financial system have taught us that individualism behavior that is not only legal and ethical, but highly esteemed can lead to the collapse of societies. But of course, the planet is not in danger. It was here a billion of years before us. Life itself was here 10 of millions of years before the human species emerged, and the planet will be here long after we depart. So the planet has been far colder and far warmer than it is today. So when we talk about sustainability, we don't necessarily mean about the sustainability of the planet, but we mean about sustainability of the human race. More concretely, of the civilized and prosperous humanity. Civilized humanity. Now, most of the people that we have a moral responsibility to care about or are not yet born. Yet it is precisely these people who will be the beneficiaries, perhaps the chief beneficiaries of the ethics of sustainability. There are nearly 7 billion human beings currently living on this earth. Assuming that no massive catastrophe occur, however, the vast majority of people the planet will ever know yet to, are yet to arrive. They will be our descendants. The decision we make and the actions we take today will affect the lives and livelihood of these billions of future human beings. Every discovery we make and every innovation we produce is a gift we bestow on future generations. Our learning, moral, and social development, economic prosperity, and technological progress provide our legacy to them. But we not only provide benefits, we also bestow burdens. Every non-renewable natural resource that we consume leaves less for them. Every pound of carbon dioxide that we emit into the atmosphere contribute to the warming of the planet they will inherit. Every species we cause to go extinct, they will never know except as a loss. If we weigh the moral significance of the inaction by the number of people it potentially affects, then the impact of our actions on future generations ought to be a paramount concern. This is the realm of intergenerational justice, and it sits at the core of an ethics of sustainability. It is easy to acknowledge our responsibility to future generations. In practice, however, it is present that typically claims our attention. Former Vice President Al Gore, who produced an Academy Award winning film, An Inconvenient Truth, and won the Nobel Peace Prize, observed that we deplete the Earth's natural resources and live unsustainable lives because the future whispers while the present shouts. A sustainability framework attempts to give equal voice to the future. It prompts us to consider the burden we trust upon our progeny as well as the benefit we bestow upon them. While living sustainable requires planning and precautions, it does not entail paralysis. An ethic of sustainability promotes caring about tomorrow but acting today. What is said here might be said as well about other goods and opportunities many of us enjoy and cherish, but our obligation to the future generation is to pass on the legacy of a biological diverse, resilient, life-supporting planet and a social world equally supportive of human diversity and creativity. These require the preservation of healthy ecosystems that healthy social systems, the latter including institutions of justice, democratic representation, education, health and welfare, economic opportunities, scientific discoveries, and artistic creativity. That was long, but we should think and act as if the future depends upon us. Questionably, it does in more ways that we can know. So yeah, this would have been way more beautiful if I have my PowerPoint and like
Can
actions and things.
here's a suggestion. If it's okay with you and your organization, whenever you gain access to internet and your other devices, If it's okay, you can upload it to the general general group under the files tab. And if anyone wants to go back and refer to it, they can go back and kind of make points or refer to it, or if they want to talk about it, they can come to you.
Sure, that is
Thank
an
you.
option, of course. All right, so anyone has a question in that regard? I know I might be spoken too fast. I apologize for it in advance, but I'm always open to answer questions.
I have a question. What does the green team do?
Well, the green team, we normally produce some programs or activities that aim to ensure at least Richland area has a sustainable way of living. We, in fact, like around 3 years ago, were considered the college, well, the university, even like among the fourth-year university, that most help the community overall. So we got like a national award as the top one college in sustainability matters. So really the range is very wide. Right now, as IRC youth representative, even I have somebody from my country who reached out to me like 2 weeks ago to help them to help them create a program to promote sustainability in Caracas, which is the city I was born. So all these resources really are available for you if you're like active, because it's as I said, sustainability is not just like being environmental; it is broader than that, and it has many different departments. Um, Normally, if we were on campus, there is the usual like activity like clean the lake and stuff, which is kind of like I guess niche. Everybody kind of like do that, but we also have different programs. I remember that I created one that is like promoting a more sustainable way to travel. So promoting, for example, the DART passes that most students do not realize are free for us, just because we're students from Dallas College. Um, so if I get to make more students use that source of transporting, we reduce the level of carbon footprint that we send to the ecosystem, which it helps the community. And I remember that like in 3 days, I signed like 120 students. So it might not seem like too much, but it is a bit. So that's good. We also have some different opportunities as it comes to like internships and all. We have one student. I'm trying to remember his name. Let me see. It's one of the. It is not in the PowerPoint. That's sad. It's Christopher Nieco. There you go. Yeah, it's Christopher Nieco. I remember. He created a program also that relates to the trees and how it is supposed to be conserved or something, that it was sent to Africa, and it's gonna like help the economy in some of the areas in Africa in his country, and he's creating new jobs and stuff. I need to have more information about him so I can share him with you. But
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, okay, so I wasn't sure that people who are involved in the meeting right now, if they were familiar with the Green Team, or if maybe they heard of it, you know, what it is that y'all stand for. Now bringing that into the philosophy club, again, we can kind of discuss the moral position that seems to be assumed by the Green Team, which is that sustainability is a good thing, and it's something that everybody should, at the very least, be aware of, if not actively seeking to encourage. But that itself is a moral interpretation of certain things. That's not necessarily a given, for the sake of argument, we'll say. Um, Also, I noticed the emphasis is on sustainability as opposed to, say, enhancement. So, I mean, something else to consider as well. So, I mean, let me throw just a general question out there, and then we'll see who bites. I mean, I'll just say this: when it comes to your own set of values, where does sustainability fall when it comes to something like maybe the environment, or as Fernando said, society? Are there certain components of your life that require greater sustainability than others? And how much consideration are you giving to future generations as opposed to, you know, your generation? Ought we give consideration to the future of the environment? So stuff like that. I mean, it's this is why it's ethics as well as sustainability, because it's a moral issue. But okay, I'll turn it over.
I think before we move on, Isra asked a good question. How does someone join Student Green Team? Ferdinando.
Oh, well, I can be your liaison, but if you want somebody as an advisor, Mrs. Sonia Ford will be the primary advisor. We also have Urbensky, but that last name is so complicated to write it that
Is there
I just suggest you to use
is
Sonia.
there something you can type in the chat so that if any of the students here are interested, they can email or reach out?
Well, I can tell you how the email is, but I cannot. I don't think I can
All right.
chat.
All right. Let's type it out.
Let me type it. You say it. I type it.
There you go.
Okay, so it's F Ford. No, sorry, S Ford, like S as a son, and then Ford.
Like the
Ford, like
company.
the car.
Yes, like the car. That's her last
Mm,
name, exactly like the car. At
okay.
thisiscd.edu. Very short, to the point, as her. But always make sure that you pronounce her as Mrs. Ford. She likes her title, and I always miss it. So we always have that back and forth, which is fun. Um,
Just like you and me, Fernando.
So
What?
that's a good
No,
email.
See,
with
when
you
I
it
come,
is it is
If
it is
you're just
completely with you, like it is
Intentional.
fine. Yeah, it's completely intentional, and it's just to show the human side of you. People cannot normally understand that.
There isn't
In-
one. I appreciate you for
well, it is good for the organization to think there is. So I just
Okay, so
He's
let's
just
start
playing
right in.
along with it.
Uh, Thank you. I'm excited. I mean, it's very easy to kind of really focus on human perception and human concerns, but this is of a more really global concern, spanning all the different versions of life forms and even things required to maintain life. So,
yes, and
how do you?
yeah, and I think I can maybe start a bit, even though I already spoke too much. Um, it comes to what I was kind of mentioning. Like it is sometimes easy to miss the fact that your action has consequences in the future. So what you're doing today, not necessarily just to the environment, but to the person who is next to you, will will impact eventually to somebody who is not even born today. So I do want to make that emphasis because I do feel that some of the people who came here to this conversation may think that sustainability as like the tree, but it is really sustainability is as a way of living that sustain time. It makes our time as long as it can be and as best as it could be. Um, so it does make a more importance to the word ethics, because if you don't really have ethics toward, like, maybe you may have ethics for yourself, but you have to also consider if you even have ethics for somebody who hasn't even been born yet. Um, but I will shut my mouth and let people talk.
Isra, you are next, or you are up.
Okie dokie. Okay, so it's something you said that made me want to question in the sense that to what extent do you think is it fair for us to be worrying about the future generations versus current situations in terms that do we not have a responsibility in the current existence in the sense that yes, we know something might be damaging or potentially damaging. We're not sure. We're just estimating that something or some actions might be damaging to the future generations. However, it provides a benefit to the existing generation. In that terms, what ethical decision do you make in terms of how long do you let that thing happen, or do you not go with it at all in hope that it's not going to damage the further the future, or we let go of the benefit of the current existence because of the fact that it may or may not potentially damage the upcoming situation or the something that we haven't seen in the future. Essentially, is what my point is that I'm trying to make.
Hmm. No, I guess I hope I understand, but it also depends on what type of usage you're using to this benefit. I mean, we may say, like, if all of us believe that there is a benefit to open all the water things that we have, so it's fun just to kind of like floor the floor, like to flood the floor. Yeah, that sounds right. So, like, I mean, it could be fun for the moment, but once like, can we really sustain that? Like
But
the
see,
the
that's the
whole
question.
no, but we couldn't because we're gonna die when the water is off. Correct?
So there are those who argue, and again, I don't think this is my position just yet because I'm still making up my mind. However, I have seen people argue that Earth was like this thousands of years ago, and we're just facing a change, and Earth will rehabilitate itself on its own without any help from humans. That's the essential argument that people are making in regards to sustainability. So, what are your thoughts on that, or what would you tell them? That are they people who believe it's a flat Earth or the Earth is a donut?
Well, I don't know if it is a donut or it's flat, but I do think that we're touching on something that I already spoke with Orlando.
Can I respond after?
Yes, of course, of course. I don't think we can destroy the world. Like the world will probably just kind of like destroy us, you know? Like, yeah, like the world will come to a point that is probably just rehabilitating itself, but without us. So it's also something that I touched in the presentation. That we're talking right now sustainability, not necessarily of the planet, because the planet will be here even after we're all dead. It's just the sustainability of us as a species, and as just kind of like conserving other species as well, since we got into that position. Um, am I touching something that you were trying to say, Orlando?
Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying, Fernando, and I also want to notice the point you're saying, Isra, because that's kind of a very conservative point to say that climate change is natural and essentially that we shouldn't really worry it to the degree that people say we should. But I think the reality is, when you look at the science, 95% of scientists agree that there is a existential crisis when it comes to climate change. We've seen like what is it? Levels of carbon dioxide in the air that hasn't been seen in over 800,000 years. We're seeing rapid levels of sea level change in terms of the ice glaciers and the melting. And it's also not just melting of the regular ice glaciers, because obviously they melt as well, but something called white ice, which is supposed to be ice that doesn't actually melt and it's very solid.
Permafrost.
And it's beginning. I'm sorry, I forgot the name wrong, but it's beginning to crack as
Sorry.
well, and we're seeing a rapid change in the sea level. So we're seeing things that are unprecedented, haven't been seen before. So when you're looking at and you're questioning whether I should care, whether this matters or not, I think you have to look at the facts, you have to look at the science, you have to do your research, and that's when you can make a conclusion. And I mean, based off of that, when you're talking about sustainability, you're going to question, well, what is it that I can do for for the environment if I'm only one person, if it seems like no one else is making a change? Well, you do sort of have these circles of influence. It can begin by you just grabbing some trash from the floor and putting it in the appropriate trash, recycling, things like that. Depending on what products, whether they're green or not, who you vote for, your politicians, whether they support environmental movements, so on and so forth. I think it begins somewhere small like that. But I think a bigger issue that we're facing is a global issue where basically you have countries who are competing in terms of their economic systems, and they are essentially attaching themselves to resources that can be um, essentially detrimental to our planet. And they're doing so because if they essentially let go of this industry, they will fall under in its economic term. So I feel like we really have to reevaluate and pay attention to what it is exactly that we're moving, because guess what? Um, Green technology resources is the future. Switching from coal to electricity is the future. Switching, doing research in lithium battery is the future. So on and so forth. So many things that are the future that we can start to invest to within now. Our country is adamant on not doing so and sticking to these resources that can be detrimental. And I'll stop there.
Okay.
Okay, I believe Yusha is next, and then Danielle.
Yes. I don't know if my mic is on mute. Yes, it is.
It's Daniel.
So, I'm sorry.
It's
I
Jose
think
Daniel is next.
Okay,
After you.
perfect, perfect. So coming back to, I will just quickly touch upon what Ferdinando said, that the planet will still be there, as in, it will not be sustainable, because just yesterday the three of us were talking about it, and it will not necessarily host human life or any life at all for that matter, but the planet in its entirety will still be there. And a good way to look at it is a dialogue from Kingsman, the movie, where he says the quote unquote villain, his theory is that humans are like virus and planet Earth is the host body. So what we do, or what any living organism does to a virus, is that it raises its own temperature to get it to a point where the virus dies and the host survives. So basically that will eventually happen, and we see it happening, that the Earth's temperature is constantly rising. Hotter days are getting even hotter, and days that were supposed to be cool, windy, and breezy are again getting more towards warmer side. And it's just interesting that the stuff that we talk about now has already been referenced to in older movies. Not too old, but Kingsman was like what, 2012, 2013-ish. And coming back to what Isra and Orlando were discussing, I think it's a great point that you both bring up, and the polar caps melting, with the rainforest being put down and everything. Well, moving towards progress, towards future, it requires sacrifice. And as always, I'll be playing the devil's advocate and saying that the planet was destined to be doomed because the sun is ever expanding, and that is a scientifically known and proven fact. So, why do we as humans need to worry about what's going to happen eventually? And there's literally nothing we can do. We don't even have technology that can go close enough to the sun. And here we are talking about, oh, sustainable planet, longer life, and all that stuff. So I'll just leave it at that. And with that question, I think after me it's Jose
Daniel.
Daniel.
Let's
Yes.
not
Oh,
forget
oh,
the sun
yeah.
will be billions of years. Let's just say that real quick. That's billions of years from now. So that's a bit silly. All right, Juan, I'll let you go. Sorry, or Jose. I'm sorry, not Juan.
Jose.
Jose, why would is it really Jose? Daniel is
It's
Jose, or
Jose.
maybe I'm
So
missing somebody?
Yeah. So my
Oh, it's
name is
Daniel.
Jose
Ah, I
Martinez.
see. It's
Yeah.
a different Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hi. Well, I just want to introduce myself. This is my first meeting, so great being here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
I, Thank you. So I want to talk about more about sustainability. I know that maybe we all know this, but the ONU has some sustainable development goals in which we all could help in some ways. I know that probably the Earth is doomed, or probably the effects or the actions that we did to the Earth are catastrophic, but in some ways we could help. And last year, uh, we didn't work. Last year, we finished high school. We needed to work in a project in which could help one aspect of this sustainability. In this sustainability, and we wanted to work with kids, with people. And what we did is that we worked in industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Probably we didn't. We what we use is that we use recycled wheels, wheels that were, yeah, like that didn't work anymore, and we use it to make like a playground. And there were different projects that we did in order to obtain sustainability also to the earth and to the people. So what we need to do is, maybe we cannot change the facts or change the actual consequences, but we could help a little. I mean, that's important, because at the end we cannot say like, "Rah, I mean, I don't care if the war is gonna end," but yeah, just do a little change, which is important, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's like big change
Definitely.
starts within you.
And it's probably
Yeah,
change that no one else is gonna see, but at least you know you did something, right?
Yeah, that's very true. And I believe Manzi, you're next. After Manzi, we don't have anyone in queue, so if anything you reflect upon gives you an idea, please feel free to leave a exclamation mark in the comment area, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually respond to Jose now. It's related to what I wanted to say originally. Um, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. For me, the problem comes down to a much more practical set of circumstances, because it's like, okay, how do I support sustainability? Let's say, for example, if I'm working 2 jobs and I have 3 kids, and I can't budget to spend the extra $1.50 on 7th generation paper towels. You know what I mean? Should I feel guilty for that? Or should I understand that that's my set of circumstances, that things like sustainability have to begin with my family first, making sure I can put food on the table, um, and then maybe the environment second? Or is it even fair to rank those kinds of obligations?
Well, I believe, in my opinion, that I mean that doesn't need to affect you because we all have different circumstances. We all need to have priorities, and maybe you cannot have the resources to help in that area, but there are multiple other ways that you could help. For example, you maybe cannot buy that paper, but you can educate your kids in, well, at least we need to use resources effectively, or we need to use more, or we need to resource yeah, like use better our resources. So that's a way that you could help, not only like buying or what is popular in the moment, but doing what you think is important, I think.
I think there's always also green alternatives, like how Christina mentioned, using fabric towels instead of cheap paper towels. You can always, there's reusable towels as well that you can wash and use around the house. Even things like using bamboo toothbrush, using wood. Yeah, I know. Using wooden
I have like two
ware
actually.
for your food, like spoons and knives and so on and so forth. So it's like there's sort of this myth that kind of is revolved around saying that it's more expensive. In reality, it's not. It's just about doing your research and understanding what you can do and what you can use. I think that's important.
Yeah, in the comments we have a great question by Susan Carrillo, if I'm pronouncing that right. She yeah, she suggests that science gives us the normal standard of the debate about any calls for sustainability. Science gives us IS, I'm guessing it stands for something, unless you have epistemological concerns about the reliability of science as a source of true claims about reality. The question is, what is the moral motivation of caring about, much less acting on what science might have to tell me? Why ought I to care about the act in ways what are aligned with what science tells me? And that's exactly what I was that's exactly what I was going for to kind of intrigue this, that hey, science is telling me this, but why why do I care? I'll be dead in the next 40, 50 years. So it's up. Even right now, I do not have nor possess the technology to make a significant difference, even at a larger scale. Sure, even if the amount of people, how many people do we have? 30, 40 people we have in here. Even if all of us combine and make a pledge to never use paper towels again, and we result to using fabric, small towels, hand towels, or terry towels as we call them. But out of us 40, one, how many will live up to that pledge? And two, even if all of us do, there's always a bigger counterpart of our pledge that says, or that claims, oh hey, fabric, it takes longer to degrade, and you can it spreads disease and whatnot. I mean, they can have a million reasons not to use it, but in a sense that they will always find a way to counter your argument, regardless if it makes sense or not. So with me having said that, our next participant is actually Susan. So the
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Well, can I add something before? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Susan. I can actually see you right now. It's so wonderful. I was talking to the nothing. Okay, but this is the deal. Like, not because somebody opposed your view means that you should stop. And honestly, not all of us has maybe Bill Gates money. Like, you can maybe put everything you have, and that's it. You make the huge difference. But sometimes, like, small actions really have like a huge repercussion. As Orlando was saying, like, yeah, maybe you are not able to do something so big because you lack the resources, but the fact that you are like putting the word out will create like a knowledge that everybody start, like, maybe not everybody will agree, but some of them will. and you start having some type of it has a consequence, and not just because somebody will like oppose to the idea means that okay, yeah, I have resistance, so I give up. Yeah, you're right, Effie, let's not be sustainable. It's just a different point of view, and I mean that's pretty much what the world usually has. Is nobody will agree to everything 100%. But yeah.
If you think
It's
about a
very
moral shift, it happens at a very small incremental level. It begins with individuals, and then essentially, like how Fernando said, it leads consequentially into something much bigger. Until then, society no longer will want these products, and then production no longer will make them, and it begins like that. If you don't ever do it, it's never going to happen.
There was an instance in Chile where not related to sustainability though,
I'm the
but
cute.
they are starting to rise like the
Sorry.
prices, and all of them say I'm not going to buy it. So there was like a week and a half that there was nobody buying anything on any supermarket, and the government has to rearrange the whole program so people can actually start like doing something.
Those
saying.
are two
But
very good examples, but coming back to the core of it, like in very recent we had the plastic straw ordeal. Like, oh my god, it was the world's biggest sin to have a plastic straw in your household. But now where is it all gone? Did turtles become immune to plastic straws? Are they not affected by plastic straws anymore? This is what I'm talking about.
You know
This
where
is
they
the
are?
persistence.
They're
Turtles
they are
knows this,
they are
I know.
dead.
They're in an island of trash in the sea. Who knows where? And
Yeah, all right. Let's.
Sorry,
We got to bring you the cue.
I'm sorry.
Bring
I'm
the
sorry.
cue.
I got
Exercise
sidetracked.
restraints.
Susan,
Sorry, guys.
Susan, we're sorry. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
That's Professor Cirillo.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I did not know. I did not know.
The moment you hear epistemology, there you go. It's because she's a professor. No student use that.
Professor,
Can you
please.
guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We can.
I wanted to go back to my comment just to make sure you guys understood where I was coming from. So, you know, you can tell people all you want about what science has to say about our resources and whether we're using them in a way that the resources themselves can be perpetuated such that we do not deplete them. And you can tell them about all kinds of things that science has to say, you know, about sustainability and our resources and whatnot. But what you're giving me in the debate is the non-moral element. And when you want to convince people to join your green team, to care about sustainability, you have to bind your non-moral claims, your claims about reality, your resources. You have to bind that to an ought, to some kind of moral claim that gives people a moral motivation to want to do that. Now, I mean, there are other ways that you could appeal to them to join the green team. You know, you could commit the fallacy and appeal to the stick and say you're going to beat them up unless you join the green team. You could do that, but we don't think that's good in a rational world. So that's one issue. Is you guys are saying very interesting things, and yes, you're quoting science, but I know people who say, "Bring on the end of the world. I don't care." Well, why should I care? Give me all the facts, give me all the science you want. I still don't feel morally motivated to act based on that knowledge. And since you're talking about ethics and sustainability, that's the part that we're missing right here. And I think that's what we were trying to get at earlier is why should I care? What are the moral issues? What's the moral motivation? But my other issue that I just want to point out really quickly has to do with what I said about epistemology. Because in this debate, when you appeal to what science says, you're saying that this is a reliable source of truth. And a big element in the debate is that a lot of people deny science. So I don't need to worry about this stuff. So who cares about your ought? Science is whatever, it's hocus pocus. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. That was great.
Man, she schooled us. Just taught us the lesson, y'all. Take notes.
She's the bad cop. I'm the good
Okay, guys. Yes.
No, that was very appropriate though.
So,
That was
do we agree to just close the meeting? This is over. We have nothing more to say.
I give up. I don't want to do
Yes.
philosophy anymore.
Yeah, I know nothing about life anymore.
All right, we should let Christina go.
Up
let
next
it.
we have, unless you're professor, then student / Professor Christina. I don't want to get it wrong again.
Wait, this is a test. This is a test. Can you pronounce epistemology?
Epistemology.
No, I cannot.
You see, I cannot. I'm
I will
professor.
always struggle with it. Christina, the floor is yours. By the way, we're just
Okay.
joking around a bit.
Oh, no, you're fine. Does everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I did write a comment if Susan likes seafood because I feel like, with the philosophy of life and what we take in our bodies, it's very important. I don't know if you guys are aware of the Pacific garbage patch. It's the Great Garbage Patch of the Pacific. There's a lot of microplastic things going inside our fish, our shrimp, our crawfish, and we're eating it. And which is why I feel like, the green team sustainability and having clean energy and having clean resources is important for us because we only have one planet, and I heard, I'm assuming you heard the script before of like why you should care. But I do want to answer Susan's question because at some point in my life, I didn't really care about what I bought. I felt like I was kind of materialistic. I do like to wear makeup and I do care about clothes, but I watched this documentary of fashion and clothing and makeup and how these kids in Africa are getting the minerals from these caves so that we can have products in America. There's factories in India that are getting blown up just so we can have clothes at H&M and yeah, philosophy. About the question about whether I buy the 98 paper towels or the $4 paper towels, which one lasts the longest. That one's really important because I do own my own apartment and I am struggling of meeting ends meet and budgeting, which is why we need to conserve our resources and what we have. I stopped buying paper towels just because like of all the paper towels I was throwing in the trash. And then I realized like this trash, like my apartment doesn't have recycling. And I know a lot of businesses and apartments that don't. And I bring in boxes and I just throw them back in the dumpster and it sucks because I don't know where it's going. Um, but yeah, why do I ought to care? If you like seafood and you want to stop polluting your ocean with plastic, then it's important to recycle. Because I like seafood, I love fish, and I hate the fact that I have to know that shrimp comes from the bottom of the sea, and fish may have plastic in here today. And if I want my children, the future generation, to not live like that, I have to do something, which is why I think it's important. But yeah,
Okay.
philosophy, yeah. But anyways, that's all.
I kind of want to go
Alright.
off what you said. You said a lot of good things there. Thank you for adding on to it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you. So I kind of want to add on to that, like just for why the ought to, because it can destroy entire economic systems. So like how she said harm the environment in a sense like you have oil spills that when people who are fishermen their entire business goes down and guess what they're going to be out looking for jobs. Also I think you're going to have to ask yourself why should I care. Well then ask what if your great grandparents however many greats said the same thing. How would you then feel, huh? How would you then feel that you were endangered by them? And then you're going to have that same adopt that same attitude about your descendants. I think that's also something in terms of the ought to. But I think ultimately, I mean, you can look around, and I feel like it's something everyone encounters as a developing human being. I think once you're reaching certain levels, I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you reach certain level of wants and desires, and once those are fulfilled, you start to once you grow older, you're not only looking at your circle of influence, but you're also looking at your world influence. And then you're going to question yourself, well, how did I influence the world? What did I do? And then if you're looking around and you look at the environment and saying, I attributed to the destruction of this, I think you're going to feel a lot of ought to.
That
Yeah.
those are actually
I
amazing
mean,
amazing points
okay.
that Christina and Orlando have brought up, and it takes me back to one of the last conferences I attended on campus before this whole COVID thing. It was a sustainability event, and I think it was the UNICEF doing it. I could be wrong. I don't remember, to be honest. But in the presentation, one of the presenters had said that if if yes, we all are fighting, and sometimes I do propose ideas that are not necessarily in favor because I love to play kind of the negative role of it. And honestly, sometimes we do need it because we cannot have a conversation going all goody goody. So coming back from that, he told me that it's not always that we need to make a change towards the end. Like we buy or consume the product and then we think about, oh, now I need to recycle this plastic. Okay, that's well and good. But most of the sustainability is affected right at the production side of it. Like if we start consuming our food, something as simple as our food, if we start consuming that more carefully, if we start freezing the leftovers for another day or for another time of use instead of putting it in the fridge and waiting for it to go bad, then we can cut down as much as 40% of the food being wasted today. And that goes for same for the plastics. If we reuse the plastics in my home, I don't buy the small dollar plastic bottle things, disposable ones. I drink the tap water because the city cleans it for me. I don't need to, because in California, yes, you cannot drink tap water. I know that. In Texas, we have much cleaner, much more fresh and rich water than California. So why not result to something that we already have instead of creating more plastic and stuff like that? Seafood also, instead of taking more than we consume, we just take a small portion that we do end up consuming. I think that will be one of the greatest and most beneficial factors when it comes to being ethical of our own sustainability. I I always advocate that do not buy more than what you need. Me right now, I have only 3 pairs of shoes. I think 3 or 4 pairs of trousers, including formal.
That's too much. That's too much. You only need
Yes, I
one.
know even that is too much, but it is called out of necessity. If it were up to me, I would wear only 2 pair of pants, one
I
for
just
wash and one for
kidding,
wearing.
dude.
So those are the kind of things that we need to keep in mind when promoting it to someone else. What do I do myself that helps the environment? Because I cannot go and tell, for example, Adrian that, hey, you're doing this wrong, and on the other end, I'm doing the same thing. So it doesn't coincide with one another.
Yeah, but you should. It comes down to a point you just made about priorities. It's like you said out of necessity, I own multiple pairs of pants, or however you put it, and that's because you live in a society where you have to be presentable in your appearance and your attire. So then that's the decision you have to make. Are you going to try to sustain your career aspirations by appearing professional, which means not being environmentally conscientious? Or do you sacrifice your appearance for the sake of sustaining the environment for a future generation? You may never know. I mean, the I don't know, the organic, well, let me finish. The green company, it's called Seventh Generation, and it's supposed to, again, evoke this idea of, oh, if I buy this product, I'll be helping 7 generations down the line. Well, can anybody name me 7 generations prior to today, like your ancestors? No, it seems unfathomable. So why are we deriving present day satisfaction from the idea that we'll be helping 7 generations down the line that we can barely even comprehend? It's a very interesting marketing ploy, and I think it speaks to the point you were making, which is that when you were playing the devil's advocate, I should say, which is that if you want to appeal to people's sense of future responsibility, you have to perhaps present it in a way that appeals to present satisfaction. And maybe the appeal there is ethical based, morally based. Or is it a manipulation of their moral sensibilities for the sake of a company to make products? So again, just to deepen the issue a little bit here, especially as it pertains to individual day-to-day decisions.
See, I'm glad you brought it up actually in my environmental and sustainability class this previous semester. We talked about companies that promote their product as being quote unquote environmentally friendly, like, but if you look at it, they contribute to polluting the environment more for creating that product. For example, Prada, Zara, Versace, Gucci, Yves Saint Laurent, you name it, and these big brand companies that promote their clothing as, oh, it's made from oil-free fibers. Like, what does oil-free fibers even mean? Like, this is dye-free. Okay, if this is dye-free, then how did you end up with that color? Like, did you use raspberries over it? This is the marketing ploy that It's just a label that gets people to buy them. And instead of that, if we are truly more conscious towards our environment, instead of buying brand new 0 meter clothes kind of deals, you could always resort to secondhand stores. I mean, there's an abundance of them in the United States, but in Saudi Arabia, where I'm from, because we're so kind of like
During a
tip,
pandemic?
I mean, not right now. Like even now, even if you go, you can always wash it. You bring it home, wash it. I mean, I suppose that's what people do even after they buy new clothes. That's what I do because I don't trust the stores. People try them on, quote unquote, and put them back. But that's another topic. And you could always bring the clothes home, wash it to your satisfaction, and then wear it. But that's always another option that takes away from the trash pile that Christina was just showing us, and it not by much, but it helps a little. And if we all started doing that, I think slowly and steadily these big brand companies that claim that, oh, we're helping 7 generations down the road, who knows, 7 generations is a lot of time. It's who knows what's going to happen even before that. But what we can make a difference with is right now and today even.
Yeah, and I agree. I just bring it back to Susan's point, and then we'll return to the queue. Is that this question of why ought I do this? And it's like, okay, picking up litter off the highway doesn't cost anything, but it might during something like a pandemic. So if I can't do things, ought I risk my own safety for the sake of the environment? Where do I make these evaluations where my health is more important than certain sustainability decisions that I might have to make due to budgetary reasons or, virus reasons. And again, because the question becomes this: if you can't feel safe picking up trash, around your neighborhood, I'm picking a very minor example here, then the only other alternative to still, feel morally conscientious of the environment is to spend the extra money on something that's quote unquote more environmentally friendly, and that's a real ethical dilemma. I mean, I can't help but wonder, when it comes to moral evaluations, how is the average everyday person making these decisions? And I suspect more often than not, it's easy to make the idealistic decision until circumstances compel you to do otherwise, in which case, how do you justify not prioritizing the environment? Putting yourself first, in other words, putting the present first.
Let me let Jose go next here.
Jose.
This is
So-
Jose right there.
It's okay.
I mean, yeah, it's okay.
So I want to talk a little more about what Joshua says about Sarah, about these big companies that are supposedly doing good things for the environment. And I want to touch the point of Apple right now, the big controversy that they will not put the charger in the box. What is interesting is that, well, the news is that, well, they're doing good things and everything, but once we analyze the data, once we analyze, the cable that they are putting in their phones is different at the different boxes as they were using. So, for example, if someone wants to use the cable that comes in the box, they will need to purchase another box because they don't have one. So what Apple is doing is that now they are selling separate the charger. So in another way, they are saying
Of
that they are
course.
doing more sustainable things, but instead they are like just putting it aside and selling it and doing more profit from their first belief. So I think it's important we analyze not just like the general idea or like the popular idea, but go into detail and what are the consequences of things, what are the final, or why did they do this. So I think that is important because someone who doesn't know will say, well, I will buy an apple because I want to contribute to the planet, but instead they are just doing the same thing that everyone does. So.
Yeah, they're just using your beliefs so they can profit on it, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, from the class that I'm taking from Jeff, that's like in the Kantian using somebody as a mere mean, that
Yeah,
you
you,
shouldn't do something like that.
exactly. You can see why it's in the interest of certain businesses to promote ethical mindfulness. Because if you want to fancy yourself as somebody who's ethical, you'll buy their product.
Yeah.
We're getting off topic a little bit. I'm sorry.
I mean, I
A
think
little
it's-
bit, it's ethics and
Yeah.
sustainability. I think we are like spot on, if anything.
I think
But
it's pretty typical that companies will use, certain ploys to kind of take advantage of popular things, and green is something that's prominent nowadays. And so that's what's going on. That's always going to be a byproduct, and that's something we always have to be cautious of, I feel like, regardless. But I mean, in the question of whether we ought to or are we not, I guess we're kind of faced with this question. Either the world essentially, or rather our civilization will suffer from this or it won't. Now, then it's a question of, okay, well, which side of that do I want to risk? Am I okay playing the risk that my civilization will suffer, maybe even go extinct? Will I play with that risk and not care and do it like how Manzi said, selfishly? Or will I maybe just take a little bit of sort of looking for sacrifice, take a little bit of sacrifice, and then that's all that in the long run I won't have to risk it at all. I think ultimately, it's okay to go with the side of, okay, I don't want to risk it at all. It's fine. And that's kind of just how I see it.
yeah, I mean, I do also think that it kind of plays along. I think Carrillo mentioned this, or Miss Carrillo. I'm sorry, I'm bad with like putting people's title whenever they need them. Like sometimes people kind of like assume like, yeah, you know what, this bad thing won't happen to me, and they keep believing until it happens. So sometimes you do have to understand that one is not on purpose of like negative consequences in your life. Sometimes you may believe like nothing bad is gonna happen to me because for some reason in the universe I'm special, I'm unique, I'm the protagonist, I live the whole story. And sometimes you're not. You just kind of like die without like knowing the reason why. So you should have been more. You should be more conscious that negative things can happen to you regardless of what you believe. Um, how immune you are for negative consequences. I cannot see the chats. I don't know if we have a queue.
I think Christina's
Uh,
next.
Okay.
Christine is next.
Hi guys.
Hello is next.
All right. So I do want to share that I wasn't raised in the most richest family, and I did have to eat McDonald's as a kid. I mean, like, what kind of kid doesn't like
Socialista.
McDonald's? But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I feel like in this world, and especially America, like fast food became a culture for us, and I think it's important for everyone to know what we put in our bodies, because I didn't realize what McDonald's did to me or anyone else. And like obesity in this country is I feel like people are finally realizing what they put in, which is why you probably see like those keto diets, those organic products, right? And yeah, so I feel like more people are being aware of like the products and of pesticides, how the pesticides are affecting the bees and how the bees are affecting the flowers and all that, and how everything is connected. And so I think it brings back to philosophy and how we need to treat this life. And anyways, I guess that's all.
Okay, that's good. Uh,
I don't know, was I off topic?
I'm not
I
gonna
kind
fuss
of
too
like
much.
got like from what Jose was saying
No,
with
no,
the
it's okay.
products,
It's
and then
okay.
like how we kind of see a change in our generation, and I just think it's really cool, like how more people are getting involved and being green.
Did we
And
send a reply for?
No, that's perfectly fine. Actually,
yeah,
we do go back and forth a lot actually in a lot of our meetings. So as
yeah,
you've seen me go back to the first point made in the meeting, so it's perfectly fine, and that's good that we touch bases on each other quite often. So I think next is Professor Cerello. This time I did not get that wrong, I hope.
Carrillo.
Oh, you're
You're
muted.
muted. You're on mute.
You're mute.
It's
Yeah, you have
Carrillo.
to unmute
It's not
yourself.
Carrillo.
Professor,
Um, so, yeah, you're muted. You need
You're
to
on mute.
unmute yourself.
Oh, she's
Wait, she's getting there.
I'm getting there.
There
okay.
you go.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, it's my married last name. So if you think that's hard to pronounce, my maiden last name is the Yiddish version of the German word for leader. Does anyone know what that is? No? Okay.
Nice.
It's Führer. Führer is the Yiddish word for the German word Führer, das Führer. So the
Das Führer.
yeah.
Yeah.
My people, some of my people are from Alsace, a disputed territory between France and Germany. But Carrillo is how you would say the last name. Most people just say Carrillo, and a lot of people say Professor or Dr. C. So that's fine. Okay, so that said, thought I'd address that little subtopic in the conversation today. So I guess maybe I like to be skeptical. Maybe I like to play devil's advocate, but I don't think so. I think I'm Socratic. I'm truly wondering and waiting for somebody to convince me of something. And I'm very open, okay? So I am not compelled to care about sustainability yet morally. I'm still lacking the moral motivation. And so you guys said, for example, and I mean this in the most wonderful, inviting way to you guys, okay? You said, if you care about seafood, technically you're saying I should care about sustainability. The problem with that is it's a hypothetical. If you care about A, then you'll care about B. All I have to do is deny the F part. I don't care about seafood. See you later. Enjoy your sustainability, right? So I'm not morally motivated by that. And so the other point that I wanted to bring in was, secondly, is I feel like if there's anything that could be used based on what you guys said to make a moral argument, to draw on or formulate a moral premise, would be something in the utilitarian bent, because you guys seem to think that consequences matter based on the comments you're making and the questions you're asking me, which is fine. But I don't know why. I mean, I like utilitarianism, but sometimes I'm drawn to Kant. And so I was thinking of a question earlier about, like, why should I care about the future generation? And Kant is channeling me right now, and I'm thinking about the categorical imperative. And I got to that because I was thinking about duties and a discussion that you guys were having, like, well, do we all have to go and buy, seventh generation this or that, or toilet paper? Maybe not. Maybe we have a duty to engage in sustainable practices, but it's an imperfect duty. We do have a duty to be sustainable, but it's an imperfect duty, just like we have a duty to be helpful, but we can be helpful in different ways. Secondly, then that made me think about a categorical imperative or version. And so I was thinking about the means end principle. We're supposed to treat people not merely as a means, but also as an end. If we are in the present saying, I don't care about sustainability, I don't care if people are living in deserts, they don't have food, they're fighting or whatever in the future, then maybe I'm using them as a means in the future. I'm using the future generation as a means so I can get some kind of consequential benefit in the future. So then maybe I'm violating the dignity of potential human beings. And so that would be a moral motivation for me. Is that in that way? Okay, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I didn't talk that much, so there was no devil's advocate.
Real quick before you go, Isra, just I'd like to come back to what you said, Doctor, and I think that do you appreciate that you're not having to wear any external apparatus to help you breathe? If yes, then you should honestly care about the environment, because me coming from a very environmentally unconscious country, I came here from Saudi Arabia back in 2016, and we honestly don't care. Our cars are emitting fumes, burning gases, burning whatever. We honestly don't care back there. But here it was totally different, and you can see that in the fact that over there inside the city, it's just a here. When you guys refer to as a concrete jungle, you still see a lot of trees, a lot of grass, a lot of greenery and that stuff, but over in KSA you don't necessarily have that. And it's I would not say it's barren, but the trees over there look really dull green, or even lifeless. So that being one point, the second point, if you appreciate the fact that you have clean water to drink, whether it's processed or not, because even the water in California is processed, but it's still rated highest amongst the highest contaminants of lead. So if these are the things, I'm not talking about the future generations, like, because I honestly don't care what happens with them. But me personally, these are a couple of things that I keep into mind when I make a decision about being environmentally conscious or not with certain products. Same thing, if I appreciate the cleanliness of my home or the sound structure of my home or apartment or office or whatever, that's because we have been conscious about what kind of materials we use and the environment having an effect on those materials.
I do want to bring something up. I'm not completely sure how many Qs there are, so that's why I'm bringing this up.
There's two
I
people, Isra and Adrian.
Okay, so technically we're 15 minutes over, so we shouldn't be like going too much back. If we still have people with queues. So yes, just saying. Um, so I don't know if you still. I'm not saying that you should end. I'm just saying that if, I don't know how much it was missing. Yes,
Right.
we still need to go through
Basically,
Yisra.
Isra is next, and everybody stop.
No, so since Isra is next and she never contributes anything to the conversation, so I guess we'll call it a day. Thank you guys so much for joining us on another segment
What's
of.
Adrian's fault in this? Okay, cut me. Why are you cutting Adrian? How is that
That's
equitable? How
right.
is that
How is it
sustainable?
ethical?
How is
Well,
How
you
is
that
know,
that?
I'm just saying,
sustainable?
aren't I like the
No,
designated devil's
okay.
advocate?
All things aside, Adrian should definitely go before me because I don't know if they've had a chance to talk yet. I know I have at the beginning, so I've lost my question at this point.
It's
Oh,
okay. Those
oh,
Adrian,
okay.
Has to win.
Hey,
He
Israel,
has to win.
She's
top
not
quality
being
excuse right there
considerate. She's just
on
giving
getting the
herself
ideas
time to
formulated.
think. That's all
Don't
there
give
is.
agree.
Let's not confuse things.
there's so
Let's-
many voices overlapping, and there's just six
Okay,
screens in front
just
of me.
listen to me.
I
Just
don't know
listen.
who's talking.
Yes, yeah. What? You're
If you have something to say, say it.
Just keep in
Well,
mind that we've already decided next week's topic, so we don't have to vote.
Yes, that's true.
okay.
Yes, that's right. That's true. That's true. I almost forgot that. Almost. Almost.
But
No,
Okay,
but
so
Adrian, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah.
All right.
I have no idea who's supposed to talk. Oh, okay, so it's me. Okay, I'll take the reins, I guess.
Adrian, you
But
can go, and if we still have people lingering, Isra, then you can go, and then we will call it a day because, as mentioned, we are over time, and we do thank everyone who has been here. If you guys do need to leave, please go ahead, and we usually end up taking a lot more time than we commit to it.
I just want to make a small comment, I guess, for a moment. You should do you think KSA is that we consider that still like a developing country slash economy at the
No,
moment?
it's no,
It's pretty.
it's far more developed than you can imagine. It's far more developed than USA. Coming to USA, I'm using products here now quoted as brand new that I've been using in Saudi Arabia for 10 plus years.
I see.
So how far back USA is from Saudi Arabia, it's unimaginable to be honest.
And
Mm,
technology-wise.
technology wise, I see. But yeah, I'm just wondering because I feel like saying it's kind of like a moral thing will be kind of a. I feel like there's like an argument, right? Well, sure, most people should, it'd be nice to be sustainable. I feel like that kind of be kind of an, I don't know how you'd say, like an insult to those countries that are still developing. I would say, like, there's many countries out there that are developing and have to resort to using, like sources of fuel such as coal or oil and such things because there is no other form. So basically, forcing them to use like technology such as solar panels and everything at a large scale, I would say that would be kind of like ensure kind of hampering them. So I'm just I want to bet someone already brought up priorities. Did anyone bring up priorities for people? No. Well, I guess people have different priorities. Given that, oh yeah, yeah, we talked about how money and everything. Like some people just don't like. Most people's lives, they just sure they're like you're sure they're like aware that like climate change and everything is a thing, but like it's not going to be their main thing. It's not going to be their life, right? They're going to be like, oh, I'm all about this. No, they're going to be something else. They're going to be like a doctor, a lawyer, or entrepreneur. Like those things would be more important to them. Thus, that's why such things as wanting to like sustain the earth is going to be a bit rolled back. There's like I feel like that's why there's not much action as there should be because, well, it's just not the main thing about them. That's all I have to say.
Okay, that's fine.
Isra, you're
Now,
next, and then we'll call it.
next. Yeah. Do you have time to process the question?
Her tiny brain cannot process it yet, so let's go ahead and give her the
We're
week
She
not
until
as
next
slow
week.
as you.
She
I am not as
forgot
slow.
her cup.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess the thing that keeps I loved Professor
Carrillo.
I don't want to, yes,
Got it.
her. I loved her work. No interruptions. I loved her position on it, and I loved how she explains it and posed the questions. It was intriguing for sure, and I would say that I agree with it. Not personally, like I know I kind of tell myself that that's the right thing to do for me to be sustainable, be more mindful of how I'm being wasteful, and that so on and so forth because religiously speaking as well, I'm supposed to be more conservative. I'm supposed to be mindful of those things. But for somebody who does not care, how do you make them care? And I think that's the more fascinating part of this whole process to me is how do you loop in people and how do you get them connected even though that they don't care, there is still something in it for them. So at the very least they should be considered they should be thinking about their selfish interests for not the benefit of oh that's gonna interest somebody else 3 generations from when I'm gone, that's how and when it'll benefit people, but more so in a way that okay this is it's at the very least contributing me towards glory or it's putting me something or giving me something in return now. So that might be one solution of how to get those involved who don't care because at the very least nobody can say no to benefit coming their way, especially when that benefit involves fame, glory, or any of those other intoxicating emotions and those kind of fantasies about okay why should I do what you're asking me to do. So I guess that's probably a skewed way of closing this whole conversation, but I think as a person who's thinking of minoring in the subject, this keeps fascinating me constantly in the sense of how do I get businesses to care? What are the things that I can tell to people that can help them become more sustainable? Because just because I believe that you should be more sustainable doesn't mean I have the right to impose my beliefs on you and be like, you should be sustainable because I said so.
Or
I
unless.
think I
No,
think there's
no, no, no.
like I think some people just can be changed. I think there's another goal here. It's not maybe it's not necessarily to change people, but like to bring about a new generation that does care. And so then those people who don't care are gonna feel social pressure. You know what? If they all care, well, maybe I should too.
So see, that's the thing. We keep discussing peer pressure, and is it fair for us to use that peer
Well,
pressure way?
not necessarily. Like it's not necessarily about peer
But
pressure
what if
as in
we
like,
use peer pressure in a different way?
I don't think it's necessarily peer pressure, more of a sense of it's innate within a person. If you see something
Mm-hmm.
good that someone else is doing, you're kind of more likely to want to do it rather than them telling you need
Yeah,
to.
I mean, but
I
there
would not.
has to be that pressure.
Mentality. So
Like, if you just
you're
leave everybody
banking.
to.
I would not call it peer pressure. I would call it the herd mentality, that of an inferior being, because those who take the charge.
Wow.
Do, no, follow me with this one, because those who take the charge with something and
But like a horse.
have the audacity to lead into something or charge into something, that's completely different than the ones who follow later on. For example, Daniel, you brought up the use of technology and sustainability, and you kind of touched up on both of them together, how Apple isn't including the charging brick in their new iPhones. You could look at it two ways. One, they are either trying to promote more sales, hence creating more waste by using more boxes, plastics, and whatnot. Two, you could also look at it that they are trying to limit the use of electronics, the electronics waste, because electronics are more difficult to break down than even plastics. solely because of how many components go into it. So it depends on what position you take. And I think you had your hand raised, so the floor is yours if you want to talk about it.
Yes, it's regarding about the pressure.
Ah,
Just really fast. Okay, so uh, people, I think that people are. I'm studying economy right now, so I'm seeing the invisible hand, and it's completely true. I mean, people are going to do whatever is best in their best interest. So what I think is that pressure, maybe we're creating pressure, but actually they're following because they want to be good. They want to be seen good by society. So their interest is popular, so they will do that thing. So in other words, we are just changing some facts that the invisible hand will change their perception, which you can call pressure, but actually is more like ethical, could be. But yeah, that's something that we
yeah,
could discuss in hours, right?
yeah. But it is also to touch in the. Can I speak? I don't know. Can you hear me?
No, 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 no.
No.
We're shutting you out.
Yes,
When
I can.
ever
Yeah. Woo.
and we
Let's
can't hear
go.
him.
No, but this is the thing. Like, if you just let things go, as Daniel is saying, people will do whatever is the best for them. Like, it's as a host was stating, like the whole thing of like a state of nature. Like, everybody just will doing whatever they can, and we will not be at the end of the day working toward our happiness. So I mean, if it requires to create an institution or organism that do put some pressure into people to go into the whatever is going to make us as a society happier, yes, I do believe there has to be some pressure because by ourselves, if
I
we just let us
disagree.
loose, mm,
I disagree. I don't think we need to pressure people into doing that. There is a different form of manipulation to be used at that point. For example, baiting someone in terms of,
manipulation,
okay, this is what you have to gain if you join the cause so and
manipulation.
so. Present
But
to them what benefit is going to come to them, highlight it to them. Yes, but pressuring someone against their will
manipulation.
only antagonizes
But
them
I'm
and
not
further
talking
shuts them
about.
off from the conversation rather
Yeah,
than luring them out and say like, hey, you like this candy? Yeah, why
I
don't
know.
you try come
I
see
fully
this
agree
one
with
and
you on
see
that
how
one.
it leads to the next one, you know? So I
I
don't
don't think
agree
we're
the
arguing
peer pressure
that
part.
way.
That's why I brought it up. That's
Yeah,
why I
I
brought it up.
don't
I don't
think
agree with the
I don't
pressure
think you're
mentality that even if it's for
understanding.
a good, it
Oh
cannot be
gosh.
done.
Guys,
I
guys, guys,
think
guys,
Can I,
guys,
can I
guys.
restate something real
Just
quick?
just a
yes,
quick
please.
moment, and students and professors who are still here, once again, I will say that the meeting is officially over, but amongst the officers and Professor Manzi, we usually end up lingering on the meeting for a little while. You do not have to be here, but if you wish to stay, we are not telling you to go away. But so far, it's an awesome discussion, and officially, I don't know if you have been keeping track of time or not, but officially, we are over with the meeting. So if you do wish to leave, thank you guys so much for joining. If you wish to stay, we look forward to
As an
having
officer,
a better
Bye,
conversation with you.
Christina.
you
Bye,
will not
Christina.
receive extra
Bye,
credit for
Christina.
staying on. Bye bye. Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't think you understand. But I know Orlando has something to say. I'm not saying you push them into the ground until they do it, but there are different ways to push
That's
them.
what you sound like a tyrant. You're like this is Sparta, and be like, this is
No, but you
sustainability.
have to because
No, no. I would
you
like
have to.
no, honestly,
Orlando is going next,
So
but I'm
look,
going to tell you,
you
you
have
do have to. Even the fact that you are thinking
look.
that way, somebody has made you to go and think that way. You just
No one,
didn't
no
come
one. I
to it
don't
by
think anyone is arguing for pressure in terms of like a dictatorship that's gonna go like a gun to your head, like yeah, recycle. Like no one's gonna do that. That's not what we're talking.
saying.
well,
We're talking about.
obviously,
That's
I'm
not
pretty
what the
sure
We're
tyrant
talking about like.
propaganda is saying.
We're talking about like a
No,
we're not going to send out
total.
death threats to
Oh
people
my
to
gosh.
recycle.
All right,
I'm pretty
all
you're
sure.
right,
not
all right,
understanding.
Adrian. Got you,
You're
man.
not
Thanks.
understanding. You're really not understanding. Like nobody's saying like a dictatorship, like this is gonna do whatever I want to do. No, but there
No,
has to
but
be some organism. Like the fact that we have like UNICEF or like the whole like world organization, whatever, that they are
Okay, so
there
you're
to
saying
say
it needs to
whatever
be
it
an
needs to be
authority
done.
figure.
Not
You
Yes.
keep referring
necessarily.
to an
I don't think
organization.
so.
Oh my God. Listen, I understand that you're not seeing the point. It's fine. But I know what I'm trying to say, and I know Orlando can see it. That's all it matters.
See,
I mean,
what I'm
I
what I'm
mean,
saying is that like there's gonna be a cultural shift that's going to enable people to want to do it, not that we're going to force them to do it. I think we're seeing that more with the generation that we have today. They're more progressive than people in the past. They care more about this than people in the past, and I think it's different. Not pressure them as you need to do this or you will do it because I said so. That's all I was
No, but
saying.
isn't that the new status quo though? Isn't that, aren't you afraid of judgment whenever people say that, oh, I don't recycle or I can't recycle, and they suddenly have the urge to explain why I can't recycle? Something like what I saw with Christina, where she said she grew up eating McDonald's and that was just how the economics were. And she felt apologetic towards it. Is that not unfair?
So
Is
Yeah,
think
that
about it.
I would
in her
actually I would agree
control?
Wait,
that is
let
unfair.
me finish responding, bro.
No, but
Please.
I feel like I would like to support her in this. Like, yeah, I feel like people shouldn't be apologetic. Sure, there's like other issues that are more important. There's just things that are
So
more
if
important.
you're gonna
You know.
So
kill
okay, so I
people
have a
by
response to you guys,
whatever, you
both of
shouldn't
you guys.
apologetic.
Can I get you? Can I do it? Can I do it? So like
Go ahead.
there's a difference between industrial change and then the social change. If a social change enables an industrial change where no longer do you have the option of choosing something that's non-green and something that is green, and it's all just green, then that just fades away. There's no social pressure. You don't have a choice of doing bad and then doing good. The idea here is that it's going to be the norm and it's going to be available to everybody to recycle, to be green, to do this the right way, essentially, I guess you could say. And so in that case, this idea of feeling shamed is goes away if it's just accessible, if it's a norm.
I just don't feel like that'll be a point at
And
any
so
time soon.
think about it like this: if essentially we stop making combustible
It's
engines, if we make electrical cars, and if that's standard, then there's going to be no effect in the sense that people are going to feel
That's
shamed or
a
feel
way
like
of
they have.
pushing,
But
by
then
the way.
like, but
those
then
are
like,
two different things.
but I
Those
can
are
That's
two
a
also,
way
different
of
things.
pushing, by the way. Just
I'm
saying,
just,
just saying. I mean, whatever, whatever.
I mean, if I could say something, so, well, saying what I say about Apple, Apple is forcing people to not use their. I mean, they will not put the charger now, the brick. So they are forcing people, but in a way that is helpful. I mean, I have both the perceptions because I understand that we cannot force anyone. I understand that people shouldn't have that, but I also understand what Orlando is saying, that if we have like a new normality or like the normal thing to do, it would be easier and people would do it just because it's normal. It's what everyone does. But I think that having the balance is how we can achieve that.
Definitely.
No, so what Orlando is arguing is two different things. So
Not
yeah.
availability
necessarily.
versus
Not
Oh, whoa,
creating a
whoa,
more
whoa, whoa,
friendly
hey, let
environment
her
is
talk. Let
the
her
new.
talk.
Okay,
You
okay.
just want to
Now I
create
just
Fernando, let her
want
polemic.
talk.
everybody.
Let Fernando, let her
I
talk.
I don't
appreciate it. Nobody
know.
interrupted me. I already listen. I
Ferdinando,
already
let her
have a
talk.
tiny voice. Y'all are men arguing against me. Y'all have deeper voices, so it
all
just
right. All right.
overpowers me. And I'm
All
I'm
right.
hearing
so
through the
sorry.
headset.
Okay.
So
Okay,
please.
Mr. Go ahead.
Ferdinando,
Um,
Orlando, can you just be quiet? Seriously, I just
Hey,
want to
Adrian,
hear.
stop, man. Stop telling
Okay.
me to stop.
So the reason I'm saying Orlando is arguing two different things, or my perspective on this is purely the social perspective, in the sense that recycling and being more green is now the new in the sense that it's considered fashionable. Oh, you're such a good-hearted person. It already creates a stereotype of the type of judgment pass on you, which is why those who don't recycle already feel offended or already feel in some way, shape, or form that I shouldn't disclose that I don't do that. Or even when they do disclose it, they're very either defensive about it, or they have this perception about themselves that, oh, I'm doing something wrong because of how the other people are treating it that way, or because of how other people would be judging it. What you're seeing is the economic side of things in the sense of mass industrial availability or accessibility towards green. And so I don't know if, like, I understand that is connected. However, what the point that I was trying to make is the fact that having right now in the current circumstances, going green is the new norm, and it is a very good thing. It's a very beneficial thing. However, at the same time, we're outcasting those who don't believe or don't align with the same beliefs. They're like, okay, why should I? And when they don't get a straightforward answer, they become more defensive. So I was looking at it from that point of view. That's the only argument that I'm trying to make. I'm not
Okay,
saying I
so
agree or agree.
So can I
think
respond
some
to
of these
Isra real
are
quick? I just want to clear something up real quick. So look, I'm not saying that it's something that should be fashionable. It's more like, is it a norm to brush my teeth? Yeah, it kind of is. And that's not fashionable. That's just a norm. It's just sustainability. And that's essentially the argument here, that it's like that's just going to be the norm. It's just a regular, you just see it clearly. And the idea of now, that I think that's a very more coherent way to put it. The thing of now, I don't think people that are green are judgmental. I mean, some people are, but I don't think everybody is. I think it's just their own moral feeling of obligation. And it's this idea, and when they explain it to people, they're like, hey, I just do it for this reason. And you doing that alone kind of causes a domino effect for them to question themselves. So you're not like forcing them. You're not saying, hey, you need to do this. You're saying, hey, I just do this because it's my thing. I do it for this reason. Da da da. And that causes effect on people. It's happened to me. Like one of my friends kind of did the same thing to me. And so what I'm saying is it's not a shift in a culture where we're pushing it. More of it just happens innately. It just happens because sustainability is something that's innately, because you guys said it yourself. We all want self-preservation, and in the end, when we really look at preservation, that's going to be the focus: sustainability.
see one thing I will say one thing I will say in rebuttal to both of you, both Isra and Orlando, you guys claim that it's the new norm, hence referring to that it is how it is. And again, one falls falling into the argumentation fallacies, and two, when you guys claim that it's normal, you guys automatically assume that everyone does it because it's normal. And my last nail in the coffin being that when I come to a conversation with people who think that it is normal to recycle, then why haven't people been doing it since forever? Why now? And why do people make me feel bad when I tell them that, hey, I don't recycle. I just put all my trash in a bin and take it out to the dumpster and call it a day. Why is that the case if quote unquote recycling or being eco-friendly is the new norm?
Maybe it's just the people that we hang around with. Maybe we just hang around with people who might be have a higher chance that recycle. So we have this false, how you say it, paradigm view that it's everyone recycles, but maybe we're just like not really a good representation of the general public. But yeah,
Well,
I feel like
this was real quick. This is Christina's point, was that it's a matter of sacrifice and the degree to which you're willing to sacrifice your own personal time to, help sustain things. Again, for example, like the environment. So again, I used to live in an apartment complex that did not have recycling. I would have to like load the trunk of my car up and drive 3 blocks and drop it off somewhere in like the dead of night just to recycle. And it had to be a certain night every week, otherwise I'd miss it. Now, I mean, this is where the moral ego comes into play. If I like to think of myself as a moral person, and I like to think of myself as a professor of ethics, it's incumbent upon me to do the ethical thing. But not necessarily. I mean, that sounds great in a vacuum, but not necessarily so on a day-to-day basis. If I've got a bunch of exams to grade, and I've also got to recycle, which I mean, this is the idea: is that when do you sort of say enough's enough in terms of the sacrifices you're willing to make to sustain things for the sake of a generation you'll never meet?
But also
So,
going out of your way
Sure,
plays a lot in the fact, because on our campus we have a lot of I know Orlando, I'm sorry, because on our campus we have, everywhere you look we have these three recycling bins where plastics, trash and paper, I think those were the three. But at home I live in an apartment complex that just has a big bin. So that's it. The affordability, the availability and the capability to do it is a lot to credit when we come to titling something as being the new norm, which sustainability and being eco-friendly is not.
Okay,
so
you
like the
you
priorities,
should,
for example,
you
then.
should. Look, that same fallacy you applied is applied to yourself, saying that's
Yes.
the way it is. It is. That's a fallacy. And you know how? What I'm saying is that like that whole recycling thing. That's not the only way to do it. What are you recycling? Plastic. What are you recycling? Cups, plastics, cups. What if you just don't use those kinds of products? What if you in your household have reusable items that you don't have to go and recycle? So guess what? That whole argument of, oh, I have to go do all this because I'm so busy, it goes away. That's not the only way to
But
do it.
what
But
about
That's
what
they
not
get
about
a
food with
expensive.
pack?
ring.
What about
That
It
but
they
is
then what
get
about
a
what
true,
about
but
food with
but
packaging
I
and
do have
stuff?
to agree. I do have to agree with you, Sha. It's still not the norm to do.
Yeah.
That's
Like
look
we're,
another thing. I
it is
didn't say
still
that. I
not
didn't
the.
say it's the norm.
I
I
know,
said it's
I
more
know.
No,
prominent.
I want to
I said it's
emphasize
more
that. I want
prominent.
to emphasize that.
I'm not saying it's a norm as in like everybody is doing it. I'm saying it's more prominent and it's going to eventually become the norm if we follow up on it. I didn't say it was. So that's another fallacy on you, you show.
I don't know. I heard
Okay,
something
you said
that
if we
was
follow up on it, but what have we been doing for the past 10, 15 years? Is 10, 15 years not long enough of a time to have been following up on something as simple as recycling, quote unquote, or as
Think about
simple
the
as
industrial. How long has the industrial revolution lasted?
it's probably close to like I don't know 200 or so years, 300.
Okay, couple. No, it's like a couple hundred years, like maybe
No,
100,
no, 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 no. Don't forget about England.
150,
England exists.
200.
England
Okay.
exists.
Okay, so let's just say 200, roughly 200 years. Okay, so guess what? The effects of the Industrial Revolution and the kinds of pollutions and the kinds of effect on climate change, guess what? That's kind of moderately new. We kind of barely started knowing about this. And thus, that is why we are just barely now starting to really, really follow up on it. Environmentalism as a whole wasn't even really thought about until like what, like Theodore Roosevelt, and he kind of made it prominent. That was not that long ago. This is a
that's
moderately new thing. That's why we're kind of seeing it barely come up.
that's where I believe I don't quite agree with you. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel. We really appreciate your input on today's topic. Hope to see
Yeah,
you
please
next
come
week.
back. Yeah, please come
Yes,
back.
yes. Thank you. I'll see
Daniel,
you next
don't
week.
forget we have a 6 o'clock meeting, okay?
Yes, in 1 hour. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
But coming back to what you just said, Orlando, it's yes, it is a fairly new industry and whatnot, but in terms of properly creating and launching anything, whether it's a product, a game, a software or service or whatever, you look at the effect that it has beforehand, and then you quantify and qualify whether it's going to end up making you profit. It's the same thing here. Do plastic production companies not know how long it takes to degrade plastic, how difficult it is to recycle plastic? Yet they keep coming out with these products. Right now, in the end of 2020, IKEA started reusing and repurposing plastic cups and plastic bottles to make cabinetries. That's well and good, but they're giving us this product without showing us everything or all the effect that goes into it. For example, repurposing that plastic, which means you need to break it down and you need to melt it into something usable. How are they melting it? Are they putting up more carbon dioxide into the environment as compared to having never created these cabinets? So these are the things that we need to look at, and that's why I believe the Industrial Revolution, they claim to be a fairly new movement, yes, being environmentally conscious, being fairly new, yes, but you always know the outcome of something or the side effects of certain things before they even take place. That's
No,
my
that's not true. That's not true, Yusha. Because look, if you think, let's take the World War II for instance. Whenever they were had mass assemblies of weapons. Whenever that was first coming around, you had the assemblies had assemblies of plutonium where you had women working in there. They were all assembling, and guess what? They all developed cancer.
Mhm.
There was no foresight. There was no future telling. There was no cautious. They didn't know about this until after it happened.
No,
And
I'm not talking about in
that's
the
so I
individual
see what
level.
you're
I'm
saying,
talking about
but the
this.
whole idea about this is production and the idea of innovation. And so what happens here is we're innovating, we're producing, but they were innovating and producing, but they didn't know the outcome. They didn't know the consequences of these actions. Um, and
Right,
so
right.
that's what I'm trying to say here is that like a lot of these things, that a lot of the economic and climate change problems that we're having today, that we're kind of seeing today, aren't things that we were able to take caution of before because we didn't know they existed. We weren't able to know that until after.
True, I agree with you on that.
I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I've been too energized today.
No, that's good. That's good.
Apologies.
Mm.
I'm so impressed with
No,
the
just
energy
you.
because it was like we've been going for like 5 hours straight almost.
Yeah.
Started at
Yeah,
1 o'clock, a little bit earlier. It's
I woke
impressive.
up.
You guys still want to do it. I'm
Well,
really, I'm
I
Oh, I
woke up
forgot
like
about.
I woke up at like 2:50 something p.m.
And
Oh,
that's
geez.
that
Nah,
that's what
nah,
I was talking.
you're brand new, bro. You're just
That
brand
that's what I
new.
was that's what I was talking about earlier today, that it's stuff like this that people hold very near and dear to them, as clearly exhibited by Orlando and Isra in conjunction, that they see. Isra even fell into the fallacy of appeasing or giving credit to something higher. Yes, religion. And you don't realize that until after the fact. I'm sure I always fall into fallacies. Yes, I do catch myself, but it's something that is inevitable, and it cannot be avoided in order to make a point clear across to the participants who stand the opposing ground, to say.
So
I
like,
think you're right, and I think Professor Carrillo kind of schooled us, which
Yeah,
hey, you
I was
know
like,
what, man?
gosh, dang it! I was like, come on, that's a good
Man,
point she made, but
wait, I forgot. What was the gist of what was she saying?
I'm not gonna source the Kant every time I come out with my arguments. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not gonna be like,
Well,
well,
the
this
gist of
sorry,
her
sorry,
description.
I'm not that much of a literature guy. What does that what does that
the
mean?
the gist of her argument was that, see, us, we were discussing, I guess she didn't know that or whatever. She said that we are not convincing enough of why a person should go more eco-friendly, but
Oh,
that wasn't the topic of our discussion today, to be honest. We were discussing whether it's ethical or not, and we left it up to each individual's own decision-making skills to decide if they choose to do so. So that was
okay.
just the point she was
yeah,
She
trying to make.
definitely gave us
but if
good
I if
thought
I
though.
could let me real quick defend her because I kind of think she
Yeah.
was getting at the you were talking about that um not you in particular, but we were talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
that because here's the thing, you guys did it. I kind of agree with her honestly. She
Yeah,
did
me
a great
too.
job, or you did a great job of saying here's why this is laudable. And so I kept trying to produce like specific examples where it's like, well, it's not that easy. Like when you try to play on actual concrete everyday terms,
Hmm.
you have to, like, that's what life is. It's
Hey,
making
man.
kinds of decisions. And so it's like, well, just because it's good for the future generation, it's good for the environment. It's like, I don't have to care about either of those things. I
You
don't
know
have
what?
to care about future generations. I don't have to even have kids if I don't want it. Okay, what do I care about? Like, that's not enough to make me care about this stuff just because you think it is. I think that was
I,
her point.
No,
I
I,
think
Well,
I
we'll
agree
see
with
on
Yeah,
you
I'm
and
just
I
saying.
Professor
agree.
Curry on that.
I'm
morally
just
make
saying.
someone agree with
I
something
do
I
we
kind
say.
of
actually agree.
I should have probably participated
And
more.
everybody wants to talk at the same time, so I'll always talk at the same time.
Yeah, but I'm just
No, but
saying,
Let's
man.
all I'm saying is Carrillo
Like,
just wanted to help us because I do believe that she agreed with us, but she wanted us to be able to not only say what
True.
ethics and sustainability is, but also to think on a way that whenever we speak, we need to be able to come up with a way on how to also convince others, if you want to, on something that you probably don't even need to care.
but for
Yeah,
real
She
though.
essentially was trying to enable us to make a coherent argument. That's basically what it was.
No,
I'm just
which
That's why I said she kind of did. She kind of told
uh,
us like, hey,
hey.
on which she stands corrected, because so far I don't have a concrete argument to convince someone. If this
that's
were
true.
a session to be convincing someone, or if our mission was to convince someone to go more eco-friendly, we all would have failed, to be honest, all 30 of us.
Well, I'm just saying. Like, I didn't talk for like
yeah,
this first 75
Hon-
minutes, but like,
Honestly speaking,
still.
nobody still has that answer. Like,
yeah, but
like
you
you
should.
said,
You're
like,
right too, and Orlando, you're right too. This isn't debate club. It's just a,
Yeah.
so you don't have to try to convince any. You don't. We're not trying to change anybody's mind necessarily.
Hmm.
So
But
it's.
you know what?
I think you guys are somewhere in the middle.
I think ultimately, morally speaking, it's almost impossible to change someone's mind on their beliefs of something. It's nearly impossible.
No, not real.
You can't
I want
really
to.
like if I have someone who's like pro-choice and pro-life, it's very hard to kind of make them go from one to the other
No,
because
wait.
people's opinions are built upon like their culture and like their entire
Yeah.
life, and like what you're doing is you're undoing that. That's impossible. Like it's not impossible,
Wait,
but to
wait.
do that in a session, I don't think it's possible.
Okay. So I just want to say, maybe you should modify that statement to, I can't convince someone in an argument because, well, well, here's the thing, right? Sure, there's the upbringing of the person, the upbringing of the values and everything. But like, if you're gonna think you're gonna change that, like, sure, you maybe even go to a different mindset, maybe. But like, you're trying to go in the mindset, oh, if I'm gonna be in this argument with someone, I'm gonna change their mind. They're gonna be all different, which I feel like is not really the mindset you should go at when you're trying to, like, have an argument, change their mind. Because, well, an argument's not gonna do that much. Most likely they're gonna forget about it. Maybe if you want to, like, put the idea, like, put like a seed, if you will, into their mind, then maybe sure it will work. But like, that's just the thing. Like when it comes to, like, for example, like on this argument, like, it was kind of on my bad. I should have probably talked a bit more or at all. But like, like I was saying, like, when I did talk, like, really later on, it was like people just have different priorities. People like seriously, like, why people are out there raising families, like having a job and everything.
True.
Why should people care about the earth, the future generations, when they have to live right now in the now? It's just, for some
Well,
people,
Adrian,
it's
I have an answer for you because look, I think what you prioritize and what you care about is kind of a measure of you as a person. You kind of, as a person, you kind of look at everything and you kind of decide, oh, I'm going to do this like that according to this. And so whenever you're at a store buying a product, you still have that choice. So it's something as easy as me using reusable paper towels and as or me just buying a
well,
paper towel. They're actually not that much more expensive.
well.
And
I'm
so,
just
so
saying,
like
like,
one more thing. So like when I say that is that like the way you carry yourself, if you're a kind of person that like you really take care of yourself, you want to take care of your family, these habits of taking care of high quality, of really taking attention to detail, they're
well,
gonna
well,
they're gonna carry over to the habits of you as in what you choose to do for the environment, whether you
um,
choose to act or not. That's what I mean.
I don't really think so. I don't think that is that's a translation. Like, if you were to say, like, you as a person, well, I get, like, for example, let's say, like, you're raised in a family. Like, sure, I love my family. I'll buy it, but like, maybe it's economical just to get something else. I'm not gonna go spend like certain amount of money just because of something because it's green. No, it's
Not
more
necessarily true though. It's actually not that much more expensive to live a green life. That's sort of a myth.
like, bro,
So if that's not the case, then what other argument do you have against it?
you talked way too much. I couldn't even, like, dude.
All right. Well, yeah,
I
I'm gonna,
prefer
I'm
short
gonna head out,
statements.
guys. I got to do some studying. I got a test later on today.
Hmm.
All right, guys.
Yeah, let's call it, folks. It's been
Yeah.
a long day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
2 hours in
Long.
this meeting and 2 hours in the other one.
What's the next topic?
Determined.
Determinism.
Determinism.
What is that again? Forgot.
Next week.
That's on Tuesday. Then on
No.
Wednesday we're having a movie, a film screening.
T- oh yeah. If you like, yo, God's gonna give you the hookup, go to heaven or something like that. Okay, got it.
Okay, but I do have. I'm gonna have to leave, so I still
Yeah,
need
Yeah.
let's
to
let,
drive
let,
back
let's
tonight.
call it a day. I have some work related stuff I need to finish up that I haven't been able to do.
I.
So
All right,
thank you
Delbert.
guys so much.
Yeah, great conversations, y'all.
Yeah.
Are we still recording?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's
That's
fine.
fine.
So about
Uh,
one question before we close. Was the presentation like too fast or anything? I tried to make it faster because I wanted people to talk. If it was
I
too long.
just. I don't know. My personal opinion is that
I'm
I
I'm
don't
gonna
like.
stop the recording. Is there anything relating to the topic, or can I stop the recording?
Well,
You
I
can
think
stop.
yeah, Fernando, you did a great job in the presentation, and